some Naviplot and the exercise practice calibration. But there's also going to be a little bit other about finalizing the pipe data that we were starting with yesterday. So good to see that we're all here. Let's have a look at the exercise from yesterday. I'm not going to add more comments to the actual data here because I think I did go through it. I actually haven't added much since yesterday. But there is one thing I would like to show you, and that is a general thing, not just related to Navimodel or this project, but related to Navimodel and the Helmsman display, and that is background maps. The background maps, we have a lot of different possibilities. The first day, you saw that we could use AutoCAD files as background maps, DXF, DWG, display line files as well. That was also talked about during the first day, the second part of the first day exercise. But there is one thing that I find very useful, and that is the particular background map here, tile map servers. If you look at my cursor here in the toolbar, if you click on this one here, then we get the dialog to the right here. You can select between predefined tile map servers. I suggest that we try with Bing Satellite. See how that looks. Now you can see we are here and everything looks just fine. You need to have an internet access in order to download these tiles from the tile map server. In this case, the Bing Satellite, but it could be anything. It could also be the Bing Street Map here. As you can see, these are predefined. But in theory, you could also have other tile map servers linked to Navimodel. This is something that I would suggest that you ask support about because it's actually not so simple. The ones that are predefined are, of course, simple because they've been set up correctly. But if you want to add another tile map server that's not included here, then there are a few things. But IVA support at iva.com will be more than happy to assist you. If not for anything else, then because then we can also use that in what we are distributing to our customers. But let's have a look. You can see here that if I zoom in, it's probably clearer at your end. If I go somewhere here, excuse me, you can see how the resolution changes as I zoom in. As of course, in principle, using the quad-tree principle, the same way we do with the terrain models. So we're downloading tiles with different resolutions in order to be able to make a seamless transition when we're zooming out and panning. We don't need the higher resolution, of course, when we're zoomed out, but when we zoom in, we do. This is the area we were sailing around. I can show you the IVA main office, really easy to find because you just zoom in here and then you find this aeroplane right next to the highway. This is not our aeroplane, unfortunately, but it belongs to one of the neighboring companies. They're using it as a meeting room. You can see here there's a connection between the office, and this older jet, passenger jet. Iva is down here. This is the office or the offices. And here we have the workshop. We are expanding right now. So this area down here is also going to be included in the workshop area. Well, let me just show you finally where I'm sitting. Physically, I'm not in the Iva office right now. I'm at home. This is where I'm sitting. This is my farm. Some people would say this is in the middle of nowhere. These are old satellite images. I can see this car, I haven't even got that anymore. And that's many years ago since I had it. There's also another building here where I have my engines, the tractors, etc. But anyway, this is where I'm sitting. I'm sitting right there. Yeah. There could be some other satellite images that are more recent. History, world imagery. Nah. It's not the same, but it's also pretty old. This building is not there. That's even older because I know that this part has been removed. Yeah, a little bit further up we have this one here in the oceans. Not so relevant where I am. But if I zoom out and go to the harbor area, you can see that this is actually a sea map with different resolutions, which is great. Let's zoom out, and then you can see that it's only great for those of us that are living in either Scandinavia or Finland. Even Bear Island here is out of Norway is included, the Faroe Islands. But only Scandinavia and Finland, as I said. So let's have a look at how you can use this, because it can really be used. If I right-click in pointcloud.nmp, one of these very, very useful shortcuts is directing me to the program data folder. The program data folder is a folder that is recommended by Microsoft. This is where you should place your data related to your software, large data sets. We have a folder here, Iva, subfolders, Navimodel Producer, for instance. Here is the tile cache. This is where we are caching these tiles, because, I mean, it's an advantage to cache, because then you don't have to download these tiles over and over again. So we're basically caching whatever we are downloading. You can see here the F298, that is the Bing satellite. The names are a little bit awkward, you can say. But here are the different tiles in different resolutions. Of course, this is the low resolution, North America, South America, Asia, etc. Further down you go, the higher the resolution. But this is something you don't have to worry about, because Navimodel will be able to handle that, of course. However, the idea is that if you are online, you want to use this functionality, and you don't have any internet access, then you can cache in advance, and then simply copy paste from the office computer to the online computer or the post-processing computer for that matter. And then, well, of course, the same location in the online computer or the offline computer, and then you'll be able to use the caches or the tiles that you have cached from the office. So that's very useful. You cannot update, of course, the tile cache, but you can use those tiles that have been downloaded. So that is quite useful, and it is, as I said, both possible to use in the HelpNet display, but also here in Navimodel. All right, let's move on to our project. I will end by saving the point cloud project, and then move on to. Now you just zoom back to right click on, and then move to the survey block or the point clouds here, Samuel. I think that's what you mean. Because there is no project area as such, but of course where you have your files. Move to the point clouds or move to the surveys. That is basically all surveys if you had more than one, or you can also just choose one of these terrain models. Right, I've saved my project, and that means that I've saved my point clouds as they are. The terrain model is always saved to the hard drive. So the only thing I'm doing when I'm saving it is really to say that this particular terrain model is part of my project. It's always on the hard drive, but the link to the terrain model is not necessarily established in a project. Right, let's, as I said, open project, file, open project. You can also look at recent projects. As you see here, hydrographic, and a lot of other recent projects. This is quite useful, actually. Also, recent terrain models, and even recent folders and recent files are part of what we have available. I'll take the hydrographic project now. Here we are. We can start by doing exactly the same thing here. Background map, Bing satellites, and then we can actually see that we are in the right location. That's always a good thing to check, that you are in the right location. In terms of geodesy, I need, of course, to establish my geodesy, not because of the terrain model, but in our particular case, because of the background maps. If I have a wrong geodesy, you can define the geodesy here from settings, geodesy. This is working in exactly the same way we saw with Navipack when we were defining the geodesy from the EPSG data set here, UTM zone 32 on the WS84 datum. Notice what happens if I choose 31, 84, UTM zone 31. Then my terrain model is in the North Sea. That doesn't necessarily make the terrain model incorrect because the coordinates are still correct, but the background map is in the wrong location. And that is, of course, go back to the 32 north projection like this. So here we are. In the Helmsmith display, you don't have to worry about geodesy because the geodesy is controlled by Navipec. You cannot even change the geodesy in the Helmsmith display. So that means that this one here is grayed out. At least if you are connected to Navipec. If you're not connected to Navipec, then you can actually modify the geodesy. So I'll disable the view of the shapes now, and then we're going to do some exports. And we're going to create a Naviplot project. Let's have a look at the data before we proceed. Here is our folder data, and then Naviplot data. Here we have an NPL file that has been called hydrographic, and that's the one we're going to use. NPL file is short for Naviplot project file. This is also you can say almost as usual an XML file. You guys, your folder doesn't look exactly like mine, so what you need to do before we continue is really, there's a zip file here that you must unzip or extract. And then if you do that, then you get this file. There are a few files that we need from this one here, as a matter of fact. Just unzip to that particular location. So I will open my Naviplot program like this. And as I said, this is not a Naviplot training course at all. So there will be a few things that I'm not going to detail on. I'll give you an overall view of how the software works, though. First of all, what you see is what you get. This is a piece of paper that is a plot. If I say File, New, then I can define the paper size. For instance, an A1 plot, landscape, and then fit plot dimensions. This is then what we can use. Now we have fitted the plot dimensions, and I say, okay, it's that. You basically don't really see any difference, but it's now an A1 plot. So the whole idea is to create frames using this icon here, and then you can create frames, and in those frames you can add data. The data could also be text here, for instance. Right click and then choose add text. Now I have a text frame, as you can see here, and I can then, in the properties at the bottom here, browse next to the text here, and then say hello or something like that. Now here I have my text. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to use the template that I have created for you. So we will open here, open an existing document. And we'll simply go to the data folder here, and Naviplot data, and then we'll choose the hydrographic, the NPL extension, hydrographic.npl. I'm not going to save my previous project, and here it is. This is I mean, the size of this plot is a little bit unusual. As a matter of fact, you can see that if I go to in the project tree here, if I select the top frame, then I can see the size. So that is certainly, this is not a standard size, but that was what the company that did this, that was the size that they wanted to deliver to the end client. So we should not change it. I will just save it, file, save as, and then save it instead of in the data folder. I will save it in the project folder here. Naviplot, and then I call this one holographic on off 4. Save. So there is here, I have a subframe. It's called the bathymetric frame. You can see that if I highlight it here, it's also highlighted in the view here. This is an XY frame, a so-called XY frame, where I can add data. The intention is to add geotiff contours and whatever we find is relevant from our project here. We have a legend. As you can see, the overall legend frame with subframes. One of the subframes is a key plan. So if I right click to it, then I can zoom to. It's the same as move to, but also zoom. And here I have this key plan that we're also going to use. But we'll start with the bathymetric frame. Right click on the bathymetric frame and move to, like this, or zoom to, sorry, which is the same. So the first thing we want to do is to create a geotiff that I want to show here. Navimodel project. So in Navimodel, you can export geotiffs and other items, contours, etc., from boundaries, different types of boundaries. You saw a boundary yesterday that we created. That was this the outline boundary. We could use it, but that would be an overkill, basically, because of the many points that it consists of. That would make everything very, very slow. Instead, I will zoom in as much as possible so that I'm still looking at everything here. And then from the, if you have that open, otherwise open it, from the create toolbar, this one here, view toolbars, create toolbar, then you press this icon here. This is the so-called chart icon or create chart. So if I enable that, then I get a chart that I can call all because it covers everything. Now, look at the chart. If I zoom out, it is actually basically, if I go into 2D, you could see that it was covering everything that we were looking at before. A chart has a size. If I look at it here in the project tree, it has a size. It would be nice to be able to resize it just by dragging this side here, but I can't do that. So instead, I could try. It's not so important, but it will make things a little bit easier, faster. Something like this, and I'm changing it. Also the height, perhaps. A chart can actually also be moved. I can edit it, but edit is this. You saw that with the waypoints in the helpsnet display. If you right-click on the chart and choose edit, do it again, then I can move it around, but I still can't resize it. I can move it and I can rotate it should I want to do that, but that's not necessary. This is fine. No reason to go into too much detail here. A chart has a cell size. This is important. Navi model is defining the cell size automatically based on the size of the chart, at least the original size, but you can change it afterwards if you want to. But right now we'll just use this one here. 2 meters. And then from the chart, I will choose right-click and choose boundary export. It's important that you don't export because that's just exporting the boundary. But we will use the boundary to export the contents. So right-click, boundary, export. So now we get this dialog that allows us to export a lot of different items. You can do it in one go, everything, but you can also do it one by one, and that's what I would like to do because I think I would like you to, I'd like to detail on what we're exporting. But the first thing to do is to create a GeoTIFF. I'm going to call this one low res because it is low resolution with 2 meter cell size. That's the first thing. The second thing is the target folder, but actually this is the right location. I can browse and then you can see this is there's a long path here, but it's basically our project and the export folder. We haven't used the export folder, but this is the default folder that we will use for export. It's a subfolder to the hydrographic check folder. I'll okay that. And then I will go to the image tab and then choose, you can have a solid terrain color, but we want to use the palette. We have 16 colors, so that means that if you have a step size of 0.5 meters, then we have 8 meters range. And then basically from 5 meters to 13 meters would fit this data, as a matter of fact. You can also auto range, but then you're going to get some strange step sizes, etc. That is certainly not what we want. So please use these values here. The image format, JPEG, but I mean, they're all bitmaps. So JPEG is the default format for Naviplot, so that's the one I'm choosing. The background color, 255 is white. This is also useful because we can actually use that to make white invisible in Naviplot. We can define some light settings. I normally never work with that. I just use the default settings here because they're quite good, as a matter of fact. Intuitively, this is looking correct if we lose these values here. So Let me give you this on the chat. Okay, to that. And now it has actually already been created. The shortcut to the export folder, once again from the hydrographic project here in the project tree, right-click, open export folder. This folder is empty. Okay. Yeah, I know why. That's because it's exported it to this folder here. But that's my fault, of course. If I sort by, so I actually have it here. That's not what I want, but that's because I've done this training course before. So let me just do it again. You guys should have it in the right location. So I'll just choose this boundary export once again, and then find the right location. Yeah, should be down here. Not even that one, but this one here, project tree. And that is not a problem for you guys because you don't have these different versions. Hydrographic export. Okay to that. Okay to that. And then I will say okay to it again. And now I will open my export folder. And now I have it here, as you can see. This is the JPEG. That's not what I want to do. To mute you all, I want to move this one here. And now you can see my, not a very high resolution, but it looks fine though. GeoTIFF. Well, this is the JPEG, but there is also the world file here. That shows center coordinates and the orientation of the vectors. There's also some metadata here, but basically that's just for information. If I go now to Naviplot, I can move to the, because the resolution was very low, I can move to the key plan window, right click on it and choose zoom to. And now I can right click and add XY data. And this particular XY data is bitmap. Bitmap is a GeoTIFF by default. So I'll just have to locate the folder here, hydrographic export. This is the one I have. But of course, it's exported under the NaviModel folder because that's where I have the hydrographic project. So open to that. And here it is, as you can see. It has a north orientation. I could right click and choose fit all. and then it moves a little bit, as you can see here to the side. There's also, for the key plane, I have a possibility to here change the properties at the bottom. One of the properties is XY geodesy. And then here I can change the scale. That could be perhaps 1 to 20,000 if I find that that is important to have a scale that makes more sense than just a default best fit scale. So 1 to 20,000 now. Yeah, but of course that was not the main purpose. The main purpose was to get a geotiff on the Betty frame or in the Betty frame. Yeah, Raymond, I don't know if you want to say something to me, because I can't really. I couldn't understand what you were saying, or maybe that was a misunderstanding. Anyway, I'll go back to the Navimodel project, and then this time I'll change the cell size to 0.2 meters instead of the chart. Yeah, that's okay, Raymond. And then again, right-click, choose boundary, export, same as we did before. And this time I'll call it high res, and same location and same settings for the colors and the light. So I'll just say okay to that. And now it takes a little bit longer, as you can see in the bottom right corner here. And now the export folder looks like this. You can certainly see that the high res is substantially larger than the low res. This is the high res. And if I zoom in, you can see that it looks much better. Certainly, it is high res. I also see that there are some lights and shadows, etc. Because if I didn't have that, then you couldn't see the items that we have over here. So the light is quite important, as a matter of fact. So now from the bathymetric frame, I right-click on it. I choose Add XY Data, and then once again I add the bitmap here. And I take the all high-res, all, it's given that name. It's named after the chart. So all high-res and open. And there it is. It is, of course, as you can see here, in different, I don't see everything simultaneously. I'd like to do that. So I'll take the right-click on it and choose Fit All. And then it looks like this. This is, of course, not very convenient because I can't see anything. It's not a lot better than the key plan, as a matter of fact, right now. So I need to do something. We have a functionality that's called the Chart Layout Manager. That means that we can create multiple charts in one go. But for that, we need to have what we call a chart definition file. That chart definition file is created in Navimodel. So let's see. The good thing for you guys is that I have already created it for you. Let's see how it works or where we can find it. Find it here in the data that you just export or unzipped. Let me see if I can find it here on the toppings. Let me see. CDF, where the hell is it? Should be here. Maybe it isn't. Oh, here it is, sorry. This one here. Element Naviplot 3.cdf. You can just drag and drop that to the map view window like this. When you do that, then you have a series of charts here. As a matter of fact, this is a simple file. But if you explode it here, you can see that it consists of 8 different charts. You can also see that the first one here is actually covering an area that we're not interested in. So I can right-click on chart number 1 and remove it from the collection. Remove one from project. Yes, that's what I want to do. Now for each of these charts, they are reacting in the same way as the all chart here. I can right-click on number 2. That's this one here, and then I can right-click on it and edit it. So I can, as you can see here, move it around if I think that I'll get a better approach. Of course, I need to make absolutely sure that I'm getting overlaps towards the other charts, because that's the whole purpose. I can move it a little bit around like this. So now I can save this chart here. Save as. Not export, but save as. Name is CDF. And I will place it in the export folder again, and then just call this one cartographic, like this. I could also have taken the original one, the one that we dragged and dropped, and just use that directly, but I want to manipulate a little bit with it. So let's try to see how we can do that. So I will save.
Sorry, please, excuse me. The file, I couldn't add it directly to the chart, so I'm asking if I have other options to add it.
You couldn't find what? Chart number 8?
No, I couldn't add the Nellyman folder to the chart directly. So I'm asking if I have other options to add it to the chart. To add it to the project tree, sorry.
In Navimodel?
Yes, yes.
But this is if you have If you have extracted the file, as I told you to, the zip file,
Yeah,
then you find it here.
Yeah, I couldn't add it directly to the project tree, as in dragging and drop. I don't know why it's not working for me.
Okay.
So I'm asking if I have other options to add it to the project tree.
But I don't understand why you can't do that. The CDF file. So I hope that you have chosen to show file name extensions, because then you can see the CDF file. Do you drag and drop here?
I try to drag and drop, but it's not dropping.
But let me show you here. But this is in the middle of something that I'm doing right now. You have to have this one active. One must be active. And then if it's active, then you can do it. But if it's not active, if it's Naviplot that's active, like this, and then you take the file, then I think it is probably true that now you can still do it. You just make sure that Naviplot or Navimodel is active. Select Navimodel, and then I'm sure you can drag and drop it. See, I have a scenario here where now Naviplot is active, and then I'm trying to drag and drop. I still can do it. Yeah, I don't know. But there was a scenario a little while ago where I couldn't do it. I still can.
Are there other options to add it to the project tree rather than dragging and dropping it?
Yeah, you can add file to project, and then it is, if I can find it, it is here somewhere, I know. Here it is. Chart definition, and then you just find it in that same location. Okay.
Okay.
Try to do that, Samuel. Now, in the meantime, I was exporting the file. Once I exported it, I got an option to show the file. So basically, this is the file. Very, very simple, as you can see here. It has a center coordinates, set of center coordinates, easting and northing, a rotation, that's this column here, and then
sorry to cut you. I didn't know how you got here. I think I missed some part while I was trying to add the chart to the project.
This is the file that I exported. But when you export it, then Navimodel will always ask you what to do, what you want to do. Do you want to open the folder? Do you want to open the file, etc.? And basically, I want to open the file. I can also do that manually just by going to the location, project 3, Navimodel, hydrographic, export, And down here it is, chart definition file, right click and open. Here it is. And then all these names, I can change the names. It's not really necessary, but I will do it anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So I have 7 charts. But what is important here is to look at the width. 610 meters, 350. So now if I go to my Naviplot, you can see that the bathymetric frame has a width of 1 meter and 22 centimeters, or 1,220 millimeters. It has a height of 700 millimeters. Compare that to the size of the frame. You can see that there's a factor of 500 between the physical size of the CDF file frames and the size of a bathymetric frame. So if we use the CDF file here in Naviplot, then we get a scale of 1 to 500 exactly. So that's how this size and bit has been calculated. Anyway, let's now go and see what we can do here in in Naviplot. I'll just maximize again, and then I will load the CDF file into the bathymetric frame. Right click, add XY data, chart definition, like this. And then it's this one here, hydrographic. It's created today. Just edit it. Or did I edit it? Actually, let me just see if I remember to do it. I don't think I did, so I need to save it, of course. Yeah, so now it's updated. Hydrographic, open. So now you can see I have all these 7 different charts displayed. And I also have them in my bathymetric frame project tree here. If I explode, you can see that I have 7 different charts. I can take the first one, right click on it and choose go to view. Now, as you can see here, Naviplot has zoomed to this particular chart. This is chart number 1. I can also see the others, as you see here. The chart.
I'm sorry. The chart definition is in the Navi model producer.
I don't know what you mean by track.
I mean the chart definition.
The chart
definition, is it in the Navi model producer?
Yeah, but we just saved it. Right click, save as.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. Once you have saved it, you must load it into here, add XY data chart definition. And once it is loaded, it will appear in the project tree here, and you can then right click on one of them and say go to view. Now, what I wanted to say was that now these three icons to the far right here have become active. This is a sign that the chart layout manager is active. See, I can toggle between the charts just by pressing the arrow right here. This is chart number 2. I can also see that at the bottom right here. Chart number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. No, 8. There was only 7. So, yeah. So this is very.
Sorry. So where do you load the chart definition from on the?
But I just
Naviplot?
showed you, Samuel.
I'm sorry. I had too much to check.
I save it from here, right? This is Navimodel. Here
Yeah, I
I
saved
find
it
it,
already.
save as, and then I don't know where you placed it, but you load it from that same location like this in Naviplot. Right click, add XY data, chart definition.
Okay, thank you.
Right. As I was saying, the chart layout manager, you have to be really careful with it because it has some good features. Because when it is active, if you apply changes to the project, then those changes will only be related to the current chart. So if you want to make global changes, then you should deactivate the chart layout manager just by pressing the icon here. Once it is deselected, then any changes that you apply in the project tree or in the properties tree will be of a global nature, because it's nice to be able to also apply the changes locally on a chart. Maybe you want to have something different shown on one of the charts for whatever reason. If we look at the frame now, you can see that I have XY grid, I have north arrow, I have my bitmap, and I have the chart definition. In Naviplot, these different files are plotted in the sequence. And that means that the bitmap is actually overruling the XY grid and the north arrow, because that's drawn as the last thing. So we don't want that. So I will simply take the bitmap and right click on it and move up again. It doesn't update over here before until you click on it. Now it's updated, as you can see, and now I can see my grid, and I can also see my north arrow. In the key plane, if I zoom in, use the window here, I can see the scale. This is not something that I have typed in. This is really the scale bar here is linked to the bathymetric frame. Here, scale bar. The properties of the scale bar is, well, that's perhaps a little bit difficult to see, but it's linked to, this means that it's linked to the bathymetric frame. Yeah. So there you are. Let's have a look at the XY grid. If I select it, then in the properties field down here, I have the possibility of defining an XY step strategy. Pick step 50. That is, of course, in meters. 50 meters means 10 centimeters in the plot between these coordinate grids, and that's exactly what I want. This is what I want. 10 centimeters is a good number for that. So just leave it as it is. So let's go back to Navimodel. We're going to create contours now. I will take a test area for the contours because it takes a long time to create the contours. So I don't want to create the contours on everything. I need to take a test area to find the right parameters for the contours. I'll use this as test area because that has both the shallow and the more deeper areas included. This is chart number 8. As you can see, if I click on it, then I can see this is chart number 8. So I'll right-click on chart number 8. And then I will choose boundary and create contours. Like this. So now, this is the contours dialog. The contours dialog is also part of the boundary export dialog, but here we are going to find the parameters that we are going to use. I'll start by creating these contours with an interval minor and major of 50 centimeters. This is the same as the step interval that we were using for the geotiff. So that makes good sense to do that. Let me give it to you on the chat. So you can see I'm not distinguishing between minors and majors, I must say. But now I'll just create these contours with these settings here. Cell size factor 1, that means that I'm using the terrain model with a cell size of 20 centimeters. And then I get this once again. That's actually quite stupid, but that's how it is. It's now creating contours. It takes a little while, as you can see. And now I have the contours in this area, and it now becomes a little bit slow because these contours, there's a tremendous amount of contours. As a matter of fact, you can't see it, but there are also some very, very small in terms of length contours. If I right-click in here in the terrain model, you can also do it in the project tree, right-click, and then at the very bottom, there's something called opacity. So if you change the opacity of the terrain model, then it's a little bit easier to see the contours, especially if I disable the view of the background map, the Bing satellite. So now I can see my contours. If I go into 3D as well, then I can make a vertical exaggeration in the view here. I do that by pressing the Shift button down while I rotate my wheel. Yeah, I cannot see. I seem to have disabled the view of my center here in the map view. You guys have it because it's there by default. So you find that under, let me see. Really a lot of items in the properties for the map view. Let me see if I can find it. Screen overlay, here it is. This is the target. Now you can see my set scale is 6.1. Shift down, and then, and what I'm trying to show you here is that you can see that the contours are in their correct location in the set plane. This is, of course, important to understand. In a little while, we're going to smooth the contours, but only in the horizontal plane. So if I go back and change the set scale back to 1, then it will disappear. So if I have the set scale, then I know it's not 1. But if I can't see it, then I know that the set scale is 1. So horizontal and vertical scale are the same. Now, I have the contours under toppings in the project tree. So I can explode, and then I can see all the main node for the contours, but don't explode those because there's really a tremendous amount of curves underneath here that might more or less kill Navimodel. So instead, I will right-click on the contours, and I want to smooth them. Right-click and then modify smooth. And because of the fact, whoa, let me do it again. Right-click, modify smooth. And because of the fact that I have, we just saw that the contours are in the right set plane, then I'm only going to smooth the contours in the XY plane. Now, smoothing in Navimodel is certainly different from what we saw in NaviEdit, where we were creating a running average sine curve. Here we are looking at the current point, we're looking at previous and next point, and then we simply so I'll just press smooth, do it again, do it again. Don't worry, you can always go back. So I'll make many iterations. I just press the smooth button several times. Continue. Even further. So 500 iterations now, 600, 700, 800. I don't press anymore. I'm just waiting for it to finish. 1000. Wow. Should display the history here. I don't get that. I don't really understand why. 2000. Wow. I pressed too many times. This is my new computer. It's that's gonna. I hope I haven't pressed it more than that. The thing is that it always suggests the next number of iterations. 3000. Oh, sorry about that. You guys just wait, because I'm not gonna use 3000 iterations for sure. sincerely hope that this is the last. There you go, 4,000 even. But the point is that I now have all these different iterations. They are still in the RAM here, so I can go back and say, okay, this is 4,000 iterations, which is quite a lot. So let me go back to 500. So I double click on it, and then you can see how it looks when I do 500 iterations. 800, double click. I can even go back to 2, and then you can see it looks substantially different. But maybe 500. I think 500 is fine. Or perhaps 400. So Naviplot will remember the history. Yeah, but you have made a... I think you're looking at it from below, Duong. You need to turn it around and look at it from the top. Anyway, I'm using 400. I'll make a note of that and close the dialog. Because if I close that in the, I'm leaving it at 400. This is what I choose to do. But I also want to get rid of all these small curves here. So I right click on contours once again. And then I choose remove small curves. And of course, we can just try to use a small value, 2 meters, and see what that gives us. But notice that all these small ones will disappear now. But I don't really think it's doesn't give me anything to have a small contour like this. So I'll just remove small curves again and choose a value of 4 and see how that looks. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, 5 is perhaps better. Remove small curves and use a value of 5 like this. Okay, so that. So now I can go and have a look at these contours. Now you can see them. Different curves, 250 meters. They have a certain length. But before, there was a tremendous amount of very, very short curves. 10 meters, and some of these are very long. As a matter of fact, I can move to this one here. Yeah, it goes all the way from here and over here. So, but anyway, I've made a note of this, and now I am ready to create the contours that I'm going to use. I do that again from the all chart. I right click and use boundary export. This time I'll start by disabling the geotiff export and then contours here. The contours tab. Using these values here, smooth of 500 and remove small of 5 meters. I can't remember if it was 6 that I did, but 5 is fine. Like this, make sure that you have the intervals minor and major also defined correctly. You got it on the chat now. So now I will say okay to that. And Navimodel is now creating the contours. I can try to open the job list. So you can see it's creating these contours. Does take time, but it is certainly worth the wait, I hope. You can imagine if you use the right or the wrong parameters for the generation of the contours, then that's quite. Yeah, I know your computer is slow, Samuel, but you can also, if you open the job list, then you can actually stop. See, I can do that if I want to, but you can stop whatever you're doing, highlight the item, and then press the stop button. And then you can just export with the parameters that I have used. No point in trying to figure out what your parameters are. Might as well do it like this, because you have seen it now. I'm not going to stop, though. So now we have a case again of this progress that it is not stuck. It's still working. Yeah, it's completed now at my end. Before I continue, I just want to remove the contours from here because I don't really need them. They were only there temporarily. So I can right-click on toppings and choose remove subnodes. Those are the contours. Okay, so now they're gone. And now I have the possibility to right-click on the terrain model and change the opacity back to what it was before. And save now. Yeah, Raymond, I can really see how you're struggling. You're being kicked off all the time. Back in again. Anyway, I'll go back to and then take, no, I think this was the chart we were working with. But remember, before you do anything, to stop the chart layout manager, because we want to make global changes now. Yeah, I've seen it, Raymond. But I try to allow you in the minute I see that you are there. I think I've done that 4 or 5 times already this morning. No, I don't particularly like that functionality, but it is, yeah, I mean, it's a crowd that are cheering and celebrating you because you have managed to complete the whatever it is. I think long jobs, that is really a direct translation from the Danish phrase for that. But anyway, I'm sure it's easy enough to understand what is meant by it. Okay, I will now right-click on the bathymetric frame here, add XY data contours like this, and then make sure that I'm in the right location. All contours .dxf. They're called, have an extension DXF, but it's really not DXF file. But it's also creating DXF contours, as a matter of fact. But the ones we are using are the ones that has the NMC extension, Navi Model Contours. So I will open, and now I have contours on the plot here, as you might be able to see if I zoom in. You can see it's not so good on with this background color, but perhaps over here it's easier to see what's going on. Here are the contours. As you can see, they're following the geotiff. At least close enough. Certainly also see that there is some smoothing on the contours. But anyway, the contours, of course, also have properties that we can look at. Not that it's so important, but the first label here, 10 millimeters. Maybe we have too many labels. You can just change that to 20 millimeters and the distance to 100. Then we don't get that many. That's just confusing matters. Label orientation could be object, and then there will always be at least trying to be upwards, so that you can read it directly. Labels can also be shown. You can change the height, number of decimals, which of course is nice. You can also include a solid background. I don't know if that's really giving you anything. Number of decimals, 1 is fine because we have an interval of 0.5 meters. Like this. So right click and zoom to. Now I got this chart here. There's one thing I would like to show you. Perhaps in here I can also in In the key plan, I can add the chart definition file, hydrographic, open, and now I got the chart definition file shown as well here. So let's see what happens if I move to chart number 1 in the bathymetric frame. You can see that it's actually highlighted in the key plan. So if I toggle between the charts, you see how it is highlighted in the key plan so that we can actually see where we are in the world. We can do that because the bathymetric frame, one of the properties of the bathymetric frame is chart definitions, as you can see down here at the bottom, far bottom. The mode is the plan view mode. This is what we use for the overall view. And then further down for the key plan, here, the chart definition mode for the key plan is key plan mode. That basically means that it's just highlighting. It doesn't jump from chart to chart. It just highlights what it is that we want to see. Now, one last thing from NaviModel would be to create a screenshot of the background here. I can create a screenshot that includes everything that I see in the map view window. So that's why I don't want to see my terrain model. I don't want to see the charts. And here in the map view properties, I don't want to see my target either. And anything else that is there. The only thing I want to see is actually this here. So if I zoom in something like this, I go into 2D, you have to do that, and I go into north up. I have to do that in order to be able to create this geotiff. So now I can create a chart here. I'll call this one geotiff. Okay, so that's. So now, if I right-click on the geotiff, I can choose. Well, there are two possibilities. I can either choose geotiff from screenshots here, or the simple way is just to create the screenshot from here. The screenshot from here will have the resolution that we have on the screen. And I think I will use that screenshot, no palette image, and then I will place it in the export. Course, create a TIFF, save, and now I can open a containing folder. Here it is, my TIFF file. And as you can see, it's not extremely detailed, but it will be more than enough. And there's also the world file here. Again. So if I go here and right-click Add XY Data, bitmap, then I can use the course. and see how it looks here. Yeah, of course, it doesn't cover everything, but that it's going to be fine enough, adequate. I should have perhaps removed the north arrow. If I move the bitmap up like this and to the top, and then I refresh. Doesn't want to refresh right now. There it is. Then you see that I have the background map. But what I also have is the white color from my GeoTIFF related to the my terrain model. So I want to make that invisible. I can do that by selecting the bitmap here, the low-res bitmap, and then choose transparent, and then define the transparency color underneath. That should then be white. There you go. So now the transparency color. That's not ideal, as you can see here, or far from it, but certainly better than what we saw before. So I will. Yeah, see, I just made the mistake that I forgot to do the chart layout manager. So now here, I've got two entries here, and they are only related to chart number 7. See that here on the chart manager. So I can just delete those two, and then basically I want to redo it. Yeah. There you go. Of course, I could do exactly the same thing in this one over here. The last thing I want to show you here is how you can here's this GeoTIFF. I could also have created if I right click on it and I choose GeoTIFF from screenshots, then I can define a screenshot with a certain cell size. And that cell size is potentially higher than the cell size that I have on my. This is quite a lot, as a matter of fact. Let's see what it says if I do that. Probably not be too happy. Yeah, 64. It's going to take time, as you can see. What it does is that it moves to these different locations. So it creates its own mosaic by creating different tiles, 64 tiles, as you can see, with a certain resolution. And then basically generating this combined mosaic that covers the same area, but with a much higher resolution than what we saw before. The first one, the screenshot from the icon up here can also be done from the Helsnet display, but this one here, GeoTIFF from screenshots, can only be accomplished from NaviModel. Yeah, Samuel, I think your computer is slow, but don't worry. You can just watch what's going on here. This is not going to be part of the exercise anyway. So it is, of course, unfortunate that your computer is but I only thought that you received some specifications for the computer or minimum requirements, as you say so. But maybe yours didn't meet those requirements. So now I can call this one here high res screenshot. Save. And then open the containing folder. Here it is. And of course, you can see that it is actually shown with a high resolution. 0.5 meter cell size or pixel size. Right. Let's see, it is possible to create a plot from here. However, for that, you need to have I would certainly say a PDF printer. Let me see if I can do it. I just want to see the size. I don't know if my driver can actually handle this, but I'll just try to create a plot and then I can send it to you. You can see how it looks. File, print setup. I don't have that on this one here. I don't have it installed. Microsoft prints a PDF. Wow, I didn't see that before. You should also be able to do that then. And then the size. There isn't any. I can't actually use that, to be honest with you. Why doesn't it give more possibilities when it's a predefined driver? So let me try with A3. I don't even know what executive means, a legal letter statement. A3, landscape, properties, perhaps. Advanced. Paper size. I don't have any possibilities here. Yeah. No, that's all I have. Be nice to have a use define one, but I'll try to see. You can see what's going on. At least you can see the principle. Now I can print. All 7 or all. And then it is placed here. in the export folder, or maybe I want to place it in the Naviplot folder. Creating one by one. See if I can find it. Here is my PDF file. So this is only A3, so I cannot see more than parts of it. But I'll try to, this is chart number 7, 6, etc., all the way down. I'll try to create one. I'll install my PDF writer that I have, and then do that after the training here. Then I can send it to you. Okay, I'll save the project here, and then I will move on to NaviEdit. Get something like this, and I think I'll probably get that good idea. I NaviEdit, and then open it again. I have yeah, that is possible. I think Kim, I think I showed it to you initially. That could be a longitudinal profile from a run line. It could also be a longitudinal profile from a pipe or cross profile, and or let me show you, because I did show you to you the first day during the introduction. So that's basically here. This is also I used the chart layout manager to make this as an example. And basically here you have the pipe, could be a cable, and here's a longitudinal profile, and that is exported from the pipe object. And here's a cross profile. Actually, I have 3 longitudinal profiles here: top of pipe, bottom of pipe, and seabed. And here is a cross profile. Just different frames. This one here has, instead of just one bathymetric frame, I have included 4 frames. This is an XY plot. This is a longitudinal profile frame. This is a cross profile frame. And that's then down here we have an events profile. Yeah. I'll save this project and close it, and then move on to, as I said, NaviEdit. Job planner. And now it's working okay. So one of the things we did yesterday was to, you may remember that from the head editor, we changed the the navigation so that it is now HiPAP. We also why doesn't it remember this? Use the pressure to depth set for the sound velocity here. This is the CTD profile that's also used for sound velocity. Skip scans without motion. We applied pressure, surface pressure, and a quality threshold of 5 for both sonar heads. That's what we did in the head editor. Now, if we load this block into the data editor, block 49, and I select all, and I'll tile my windows and actually also close some of these windows that are irrelevant. Heat, for instance, that's not relevant, and also the single beam. There's also the pipe tracker current. So now window tile and file, save settings. So now I have my the different windows here. You've seen it before. What I have here now is the navigation, and you can see that there's quite a lot of noise on my navigation. But that's because I did actually choose that. You can see it in the caption up here. This is the raw HiPAP navigation. So I want to show you how we can, in post-processing here, improve the navigation. So if I want to improve the navigation, I want to recalculate the combination between USBL and DVL, gyro motion for that matter as well. If I want to do that, then I need to use the raw data, that is the raw transponder position. In order to make the best possible recalculation, same as we do in Navipack, in order to do that, I need to get rid of the noise in the navigation, do some editing in the DVL data. But we'll start with the navigation. There are some outliers here that I want to get rid of. You can see that. You can also see that there are a lot of different lines here. This is linked to the fact that I have pipe tracker. Look at my cursor up here, PT top. I disable that, then the pipe tracker disappears. I don't want to see that. There's also this one here. This is the Doppler track that I don't want to see either. And then, as a matter of fact, I also see the online INS navigation, the ACV03. I don't want to see that either. The only way I can get rid of that is by right-clicking and choosing settings here. And then on the data, I disable the ACV03. For the HiPAP, it could be advisable, if you double-click on it, to show the lines. Then you can see the individual observations. That is quite useful, actually. So I'll say OK to that, and then I will save the configuration. And OK. So now I only see HiPAP. So the first thing here is to get rid of the outliers, and for that I can choose a region here. If you look at my cursor at the top, create region. You create a region that contains the bad data. Try to go as close to the data without including any of the good data. So I create a rectangle and by double clicking. So inside here, the hatched area are outliers that I want to get rid of. I will right click in the hatch area and then say delete inside region like this. This was below the line, then I can do the same thing on top of the line like this. Right click and delete inside region. So far, so good. There's still noise that I must get rid of. So NaviEdit is not something you have to get used to penning and moving here. So this is nowhere near what you can do in NaviModel. But what I want to do now is manually go to the run line here and then take these outliers here and move them down to the line. I'm not going to be extremely careful with this. That's not so important. But I still want to move them so that they are not jumping something like 20 meters in one go, because then the Kalman navigation will not be very good. Sometimes this is a little bit tricky to see what's going on. This one here, for instance, see, it's particularly difficult if it's jumping in the direction, the sailing direction. That happens sometimes. But you need to get rid of all these sudden jumps and then move them to the approximate location in between the neighboring points. And I'm talking about neighboring points in time. I pan by keeping the mouse wheel down and moving the cursor like this. Zoom in and out, of course, by rotating the wheel of the mouse. Something like this, I'll just leave it as it is. There's another one here. No, Samuel, but that's because you didn't do what I told you to do. I told you to right-click, choose settings, and then on the data, double-click on the HiPAP, and then choose drawing style, line and dot. Then you see the notes. Of course, you can do this without actually seeing the notes, even though some of them will be difficult to locate. There's a lot of manual work here. And of course, I could also just choose to delete these points, just select it and press delete on the keyboard. Because I think we have enough data as it is, but this is yeah, that's a good question, Ili. The difference, of course, is that the solution becomes stronger if you have more points. But on the other hand, as you can see, there are also these jumps are just 1 point at a time. If you had several points in a period of perhaps 20 seconds or so, then you shouldn't delete them, because then the combined solution would be very weak. But you could also delete them here. I will save pressing the save button here. That is writing back to the database. And then I will actually normally when I'm doing something like this, we're also editing the Doppler data, and that's certainly what you'll be seeing. Those of you that will be participating next week, we will also be editing the Doppler data. You can see them here: the Z component, the Y, and the X component. But it's actually quite good data, so especially on this block here. So I'm not going to do anything about it. So combining navigation and Doppler log does require, however, that the Doppler log has the right heading. But if I show the Doppler track here, look at that, you can see that it goes in the wrong direction. So there is something with the mount angle that we need to handle. This is what we'll do before we are having a break. I'm, of course, assuming that you have handled the navigation now. And then when you are in the navigation window, you can choose up here, Tools, Estimate DVL Mounting. Here, like this. My value, you should write down your own value. Mine is 175.90. And then there's also some scale, and that is fine. That's just 3% or something like that. That's fine for this. This is just a QC number. So I've made a note of this, 175.90. And then I will actually, but it is important that you save your configuration before you leave. I will close down the data editor and then load the block once again into the head editor. And now for the DVL, the Doppler log here, double click and choose mount angles heading. And that should then be the number that you have made a note of. Mine was 175.9. Okay, to that. And you can see that it's here. Okay, and now the head editor acknowledges the modification. And now I will load block 49 into the data editor again with everything in it. Yeah. So if I maximize my navigation, then you can see that this is the Doppler track, the blue line here that goes all the way to the top. There's a small deviation when we get to the end, but that is certainly acceptable. Also see the red line, that is the pipe. And that is following with a certain offset, following the navigation. And of course, the key now is that we need to improve the navigation. We'll do that after the break. So let's meet again at 11:20. See you guys then.